No doubt that openness has broken many old beliefs, old thoughts, but also has generated tremendous opportunities for growth and innovation. Indian youth is experiencing a push for growth. For him, global has tended to be a big village and throwing up opportunities in all directions. In the newly emerged economy, human capital has become the most important driving factor. Future growth would be largely determined by the quality and supply of this very critical factor. Fortunately, India has always emphasized this, and in the course of time, developed highly talented, skilled professions by promoting many world-class institutions, and XLRI is one of them. Human resource is a key component of any developmental activity, and India has a tradition to promote well-trained managers since it has embarked on economic development through planning process. XLRI has been on the forefront to carry on the responsibility of promoting well-trained managers. Since its inception in 1949, XLRI is one of the top institutions in the country for human resource, education and training, supporting the Indian industrial development movement. The students of XLRI have established themselves well in various national and international organizations. You are also going to be a part of this privileged legacy. As I said, human resource is the key to any development activity, be it manufacturing or service or technology. And human resource development managers play a most visionary role by providing a related competency. No doubt, we have made tremendous progress in technology, which has become integral to our corporate life. But technology is futile unless human knowledge and capacity supports it effectively. Knowledge and compatibility is absolutely necessary to produce desired results in corporate, social and national life. Availability of well-trained managers with futuristic perception and vision is most important in our move to achieve the desired goals. Our country has been boasting of our very large human capital, but that alone doesn't take us too far. We need to remember that a very large chunk of this capital is untrained and perhaps unemployable. This should be a source of worry to all of us, and our policy makers need to give serious attention to this problem. Coming back to our theme, managers play the most important role in organizational development and sustaining its growth. However, to me, the managerial entrepreneurship is much more important and critical in organizational development, growth and sustainability, because conventionally it is the entrepreneur who arranges the various factors of production. Entrepreneur is also a person who provides the risk capital and carries the various risks in his stride. Though managers in today's corporate life also form an important constituent of growth and risk management, but undoubtedly it is the entrepreneur who is primarily responsible to carry all types of risk on his shoulders, and thus there is no substitute for him. Growth depends on effective innovation, and an entrepreneur needs to have a long-term perspective on the changing dynamics of society and macroeconomy. An active entrepreneur can visualize likely changes and initiate proactive innovative changes in the system, products, methods, and management. Innovation, however, is a costly and risky affair, but an innovative mind finds a way to overcome the cost obstacles. Innovation will be possible through creative thinking, but creative thinkers are quite few in all areas of operation. However, these few creative managers constitute the backbone, since they are in a position to visualize emerging changes and potentials. Creative people are futuristic. We all know that future is always uncertain, and all futuristic initiatives are full of risk. But the creative managers and entrepreneurs, with their immense desire to succeed, venture into that uncertain territory by taking risk. The element of risk can be minimized and reduced by proper analytical understanding about future events, and large part of risk can be converted into rewards. It is therefore necessary that managers and entrepreneurs equip themselves with knowledge and understanding and analytical skills for information processing, and finally generating strategic inputs for industrial and commercial initiatives. There is always a need to take stock of changing environment around you and adapt to the changing conditions. It is not uncommon to see people becoming complacent with initial success. As the time rolls on, it may require change in your business strategy. This is nothing new I am telling you, but it is extremely important, and hence the emphasis from my side. There are two examples which immediately come to my mind whenever this point arises. I was born, brought up and educated in a city called Kanpur in UP. As a schoolboy, I had seen a huge amount of industrial activity in the city, mainly in the field of textiles and leather. There were a dozen or more large mills humming with activity and providing the city with a certain character. It used to be then called Manchester of the North. But a stage arrived in each case where the people behind the mills perhaps took things for granted. There was hardly any efforts towards modernization, not taking note of changing pattern of consumer needs, and on top of it, mismanagement in a few cases. All these mills, as I see now, are lost. They may perhaps still make, or would have made already a lot of money selling their real estate. But the economic activity of providing livelihood to a large labor force, a revenue to the state, and returns to the shareholders, and the resultant purchasing power to members of the society in general is now a thing of the past. We can't say if all the affected units would have survived today because of this competition, which are much later, but the demise was certainly premature. Another example before me in this regard is that of an institution with which I happen to be associated with in the later stages of my career. That is one of the stock exchanges. It has been a towering institution with a rich history behind it of about 135 years. In literal terms too, it has been a towering institution. As you see the picture of its tower, almost every time a mention is made of capital markets. It had a firm foundation. However, a stage came when its clientele demanded certain changes in its business practices. But perhaps the exchange didn't take it very seriously, or perhaps did not recognize that sticking to its traditional practices might cause loss of business in the long run. Around the same time, a new exchange was established with the blessing of the government. It started with modern technology and global business practices, which the major investors were more comfortable with. This caused over a period substantial erosion in the market shares of the older stock exchange, which it is still struggling to recapture. The exchange ultimately did fall in line with the expectations of the market, but it did it late and suffered the consequences. This is the case of a 135-year-old institution which ran with distinction for more than a century as a leader in the capital market and is the oldest exchange in Asia. So, not running with the times does not spare anybody. I am not suggesting even for a moment that what was done or what was not done by the exchange was on account of an element of inefficiency. I am also not going into the merits or demerits of its traditional practices. But the clientele desired a different menu. It was only a matter of perception, as it had firmly believed that continuing with its historical practices would deliver. But it didn't happen. To the credit of the exchange, however, I must share with you that it upgraded itself in terms of technology and came up with change in its business practices as well. It is no longer a club of brokers. It is the first exchange in the country which demutualized itself to form a corporate entity whose shares are held widely, including by overseas investors, and commanded a very good valuation. The most important ingredient needed to the startup of a venture or for scaling of an existing venture is the risk appetite of the entrepreneur. You are all aware of this. Our director also mentioned in his speech. Each one's capacity is different, and therefore the degree of risk one would be prepared to take would also differ. But it has to be adequate enough to make the venture viable. This is purely internal to an entrepreneur and has to arise from within. In my view, this trait cannot be created by any amount of training. Of course, the training would certainly be able to develop and sharpen a latent capability. Out of the external factors, the most important and crucial, as you are all aware, is arranging finance. It is here that I find entrepreneurs go through great amount of pain before they are able to tie up their requirements satisfactorily. It is here that the risk appetite of entrepreneurs clashes with the risk appetite of the financing institution. It is quite a job, my experience shows, to match the two. What is needed is total transparency while putting up this case on the part of the entrepreneur, and simultaneously a constructive attitude on the part of the financing institution, primarily the banks. Banks by nature are conservative because they deal in somebody else's money, that is depositors' money, every pie of which has got to be repaid. So they are naturally very careful in taking a view on the request before them. But this doesn't mean that they sit over the pile of money they collect from the depositors and carry on their activities to create their own surpluses and reward only their shareholders. They have a wider social responsibility as well. The resolution of the issues between entrepreneurs and banks is crucial. Here I am reminded of a couple of experiences during my association with Reserve Bank. We used to have a committee to deliberate on the credit needs of the small sector. Members of the committee, besides RBI